everybody. Thanks for joining the session. My name is MJ. I'm the head of product at Proximity. We are a team that is dedicated to helping DeFi applications in the Near and Aurora ecosystems. And today I'm joined by Matt, my coworker, who is our head of DevRel, and we are going to talk to you about a very exciting topic, how to build composable decentralized frontends using the blockchain operating system. So let's get started. So before, just a few words on the Near blockchain. So as you all know, that Near started in 2018 as a layer 1 blockchain. We launched our mainnet in 2020. And since then, we have really been focusing on empowering developers by providing all the tools that developers might need for building their Web3 applications. So over the years, we have built a number of tools like SDKs, CLIs, APIs, templates, and so forth, because we truly believe that developers, builders, and makers are the ones who will bring mass adoption to Web3. And finally, this year, we consolidated everything that we have built over the years into the blockchain operating system. So the ultimate goal here is to help bring over 1 billion users into Web3. So next slide, please. So what exactly is the blockchain operating system, right? So from the end user perspective, it serves as a common layer for discovering and browsing all the open web experiences. So what does that mean? So imagine if there's a website where you can go and you can browse and discover all the Web3 applications that's available out there right now, right? That will be a substantial improvement over our existing user journey. And in fact, this is no longer a dream, it's already a reality. You can actually go to near.org today, where you can discover a bunch of Web3 applications in one place. And one thing to highlight here is that the blockchain operating system is chain agnostic, so it can actually work with any blockchain. So if you go to near.org, you can actually find applications that are not just on Near, but also on other blockchains like Ethereum, Polygon, zkSync, Arbitrum, and so forth. And then from the, and then from the developer's perspective, the blockchain operating system is a tech stack for them to build fully decentralized applications. So the key word here is fully decentralized, which means that in addition to decentralizing your backend services with smart contracts, now you can also decentralize your front-end services with the blockchain operating system, which we'll dive into later in this presentation. Next slide, please. So what exactly are the problems that the blockchain operating system is trying to solve here, right? So we are all here in Web3 because we know that there are a number of issues in Web2, such as censorship, right? App Store can take down your application at any time for whatever reasons. And there's also, the lack of, data ownership in Web2, because we all know that, we do not own our data in Web2. Those large corporations own our data, like, Microsoft, Facebook, or Naver in Korea, right? And then on the other side, in Web3, it has its own issues, right? Fragmentation being one of the top issues, because we all know that our ecosystem is very fragmented. Each blockchain has its own applications, its own wallets, its own user experience. And there's very little interconnectivity here. And for example, if you are on Ethereum, you're probably using MetaMask, but if you're using something like Solana, you're probably using the Phantom wallet, right? And a similar issue in Web3 is discoverability. So every time you explore a new blockchain, it will take some time for you to identify all the marquee, real, trustworthy applications in that blockchain that is not a rug pull, right? So that is a big negative in the user journey. And then between Web2 and Web3, they share some common challenges. For example, how do you easily onboard new users, right? How do you deliver the so-called 5 minutes to wow, right? And how do you distribute your product to as many users as possible? And infrastructure management is always a challenge, right? Like if you're in Web2, you're probably dealing with virtual machines, Kubernetes clusters, and so forth. And in Web3, you can leverage the blockchain for your backend, right? But you still need to worry about your front-end services. You probably are still using one of the centralized cloud services like Cloudflare, AWS, GCP, and so forth. So it's never truly serverless, right? It's never truly it's always non-trivial. So these are the problems that the blockchain operating system is trying to address in a more kind of unified way. Next slide, please. And we try to solve these issues by providing developers with all the tools that they might need for building fully decentralized applications. And these tools can be categorized into four different layers in the BOS stack. And there are, the blockchain layer, middleware, user interface layer, and the onboarding layer. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the BOS stack. So in the very bottom of the stack, we have the blockchain layer, right, which is the backbone of the BOS stack. And obviously, we have, the Near blockchain, we have Ethereum, and probably hundreds of other blockchains. So this is where your smart contract, your trust, your assets, your identity are lying, right? And then on top of that, we have the middleware layer, right? This is a layer of RPCs, indexers, notification services. The goal here is to provide users and developers the same experience that we are all used to in Web 2, right? For example, if you are searching for some data in a search box, you should be able to get a result pretty quickly instead of having to traverse the entire blockchain, right, to get a response. And sometimes this layer is also called the data platform layer because the goal here is to make on-chain data more accessible to users and developers and applications. And then on top of the middleware layer, so we have the user interface layer. This is really the new layers we are introducing with the blockchain operating system. So you can think of it as a new paradigm for developing and deploying your front-end applications. And the way it works is very simple. So essentially, if you have a front end, you can take the front end and you can componentize it into a BOS component. This is similar to how you would componentize a front end using React.js or Vue.js, right? And once you have these front end components, you can then deploy them onto the Near blockchain. And this is similar, to deploying a smart contract to a blockchain. So in addition to deploying the smart contract, now you can also deploy your front-end code onto the blockchain, right? And now the full stack will be, on-chain. And once your, the source code of your front-end components are deployed on-chain, right? They instantly become, decentralized, and they are, become unsensible, unstoppable, can be accessed by anyone from anywhere. And also because the code is deployed on-chain, so it is also transparent, right? So anyone can go there and view and audit the source code of your front end, right? So now, in addition to viewing and auditing the source code of your smart contracts, users can also audit the source code of your front ends, right? They can basically audit the source code of the entire stack, which will enhance security. And also, because all the code is on-chain, anyone can view the code and fork it, reuse it, create a new, front end based on someone else's, front end. And these front-end components, they are individual pieces, so they can be, used standalone. However, they also can be, composed, into a new experience. For example, you can put, multiple components onto, a single page to create like a, one-stop shop experience. And then, once you have these front-end components deployed on-chain, we need places where users can discover and interact with these on-chain components, right? And this is where the gateways come into play. Essentially, gateways, they provide access points where users can view, they can browse and interact with all the, front-end components on BOS. And it is extremely easy to, to run these gateways. It can be anything. It can be a website like BOS, near.org. It can be a web app. It can be a mobile app. It can also be like, a browser. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense for these, wallets and portfolio apps to use the BOS components in their application to extend, to add new features to their existing application without writing a single line of code, right? And finally, on top of the BOS stack, we have the onboarding layer. So this is a layer of products and services that helps you to, easily onboard new users to your application. And for this workshop, we are going to be focusing on the UI layer. We're going to show you how you can easily, build a BOS component within, 15 minutes. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned at the beginning, so our ultimate goal here is to help bring 1 billion users to Web3. And I truly believe that by decentralizing the front-end applications, it actually leads to greater distribution, because now, instead of Uniswap just being available on uniswap.org, the Uniswap component can actually be embedded anywhere, right? It can be embedded in a portfolio app, it can be embedded in a wallet, it can be embedded anywhere and reused anywhere. And BOS really provides all the tools that help developers to build fully decentralized applications, not just the backend, but also the front end. So just in summary, BOS provides a low-cost, unified development experience for you to build Web3 applications. It has features and services that helps you to build a simple onboarding experience. And developers can also build gateways that provide a one-stop shop experience for discovering multiple Web3 experiences or Web3 applications. And I believe that BOS is probably the easiest way for you to prototype Web3 ideas, which we will show you in the workshop in a minute. And finally, because everything is deployed on-chain, it's also a open source and transparent ecosystem that anyone can view the source code of both the front end and the back end of an application that someone else built. And this not only enhances security, but also fosters collaboration. And yeah, so BOS is already live. You can actually go to near.org to view an early version of the blockchain operating system. You can see hundreds of components and applications built by other developers. You can easily view the source code, fork them, create new experiences based on these components. And so obviously, BOS is still in its early stages because we announced it at ETH Denver this year, which is less than 3 months ago. But we already have a number of partners that are building on the BOS. And I'm just going to quickly go through them. So the first one is Mintbase. So this is an NFT marketplace. So this is their BOS component. So this can be actually embedded and reused anywhere. Imagine if there's a game, right? The game maker can actually embed this NFT marketplace in their game, right? So that players can easily trade in-game NFTs without leaving the game. And this is another component from Mintbase. Essentially allows people to mass list their NFTs for sale. The next one is Keepom, which is a very exciting project that Matt is heavily involved in the NEAR ecosystem. So it helps to solve the onboarding issues in Web3. So imagine if you want to send another user some crypto, but the other user has no wallet or account set up, right? So what you can do is you can go to Keepom to generate a drop link, and then you can send the user the link, right? And when the user clicks on the link, they will see, so their account will be set up, right? It will be taken care of, and they will see they have received some crypto from you. And this is the Keepom component, which allows you to generate that, those drop links, and it can be embedded in any third-party applications. And we also have NEAR Tasks, which is a platform where users can earn NEAR by completing simple tasks, which is similar to Mechanic Turks, but it's on the blockchain, and they are building a gateway on BOS as well. And I think finally we have PikeSpeak, which is a on-chain data analytics platform. So they actually have a analytics dashboard component, and you can fork it to create your own customized on-chain data dashboard using based on that component. So I think that's it, and I'll hand it over to Matt to give an awesome demo.
All right, thanks, MJ. So yeah, I just wanted to take the temperature of the room. So like, who's here at ETH Seoul to hack this weekend? Just put your hands up if you have hands. I only see like 3 hands. Nobody's here to hack? Everybody's here to hang out. Okay, well, any developers in the room who are not hacking? Who is a developer? Put your hand up. Come on. All right. So are you guys familiar with React? You've obviously heard of it. Maybe you built a front end in React. So you're familiar with the concept of components. So basically, you'll start with your top level component. You'll mount that into basically a web page. So it'll load into the body of the web page. And then your React components will basically unpack into like kind of a waterfall tree, often referred to as like maybe a component hierarchy. So what I'm going to show you today is actually BOS components. What's nice about BOS is that you actually get all of the Web3 tooling and all of the sort of wallet connections and even a little bit extra stuff like styled components and a few kind of really popular things like Sass and stuff that you would normally kind of bring into a React project anyways. So that all comes just by virtue of the default BOS gateway. It's just all kind of packaged in there. So you'll see in a moment the code that you have to write is actually very, very little to interact with smart contracts on chain. Now for this example, because we're here at ETH Seoul, I'll be talking about BOS components that talk to basically the Ethereum mainnet. So even though the components are deployed on near.org, they're deployed on the Near blockchain and can be viewed on near.org, they're actually talking to the Ethereum mainnet and Ethereum smart contracts. So if we look at this component right here, I'm just showing you like sort of what the render code would be in a React component. But you can see that there's just very little code here. One thing that's interesting here is I'm actually embedding these widget tags. Now, these widget tags are referencing other BOS components. So I'm showing off basically the composability power of BOS. And just in a little bit, I'm actually going to show you how I've embedded another component from another developer. So both of these components came from me, and then I have them in a sort of a parent component called the ETH Seoul demo. But I also have another component that I've pulled in from another developer. So I'm just going to adjust the microphone a little bit. So I'm just going to jump over to the code here and basically show you, this is actually called bos.gg. So this is a website that Proximity put together. This is for browsing BOS components, searching BOS components. It's for editing BOS components and deploying BOS components. So you can actually edit and deploy BOS components right inside the web. So basically, this is my ETH Seoul demo. I have just some sort of helper stuff. I can send some messages, fly up a little toast message if I have if I want to communicate to the user like an error or something, just throw up a little bubble. And then basically you can see I'm checking, standard stuff that you would normally do in any ETH app. You check the chain ID, you make sure they're on ETH mainnet, you do all that kind of stuff. And then basically down here, I go to, I'm actually using ethers.js, but this is already brought into the BOS stack, so I don't have to import it or anything. It's already there. So I can request accounts, and then I can set the sender of any sort of transactions or any requests to get balance or anything. There's some style stuff, which I'll touch on in a moment. And then basically down here is that render code that you saw before. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So basically, this is the ETH Seoul demo. So it's automatically pulled in my account. And then it's actually passed the sender as a prop to these other child components. So it's passed it to the ETH balance and also the staked ETH balance, which I'm going to show each individual component in a second. So that's passed down in the sort of component hierarchy, and then you can see they're rendering stuff here, and I can change the message. I can just say like, sender balance. I mean, kind of a trivial change, but basically I can update that. Props get passed down, obviously, to the child component, and it's really just that simple. So in just a few lines of code, I'm interacting with the Ethereum mainnet, I'm reading balances, I'm importing other components, and even this last one down here, which is a fully styled component by another developer at Proximity called Ludium. And this is to stake Ether with Lido. So really cool stuff, not a lot of code. Let's just go back and talk about each one of these components kind of in detail. So in the ETH balance component, this is actually all of the code for the ETH balance component. So up at the top, you can see I check some props. I check basically if the sender has been set in the props. If not, I'm defaulting to my own account just for debugging purposes, things like that. It's really just a few lines of code. It's less than 20 lines of code. And I can go get the ETH balance, and I can display it on the screen. And basically, I'm using some of the BOS APIs like state.update. And when I call state.update and I update state, like basically state.balance, the component will re-render. So all of this VM stuff is sort of handled in a similar way that you would handle with React. So if you were using hooks and you were basically using useState and you were calling setState on a balance variable, for example, you would basically get your component to re-render when you call setState. So a very similar kind of API to React, just a little bit slightly modified. So not a steep learning curve at all. In the staked ETH balance component, I'm just showing one of the helper methods here. I can show the whole component up here. It's basically similar to the balance component, but here I'm loading the Lido contract. So I'm actually pulling the Lido contract from the ETH mainnet. I'm fetching the Lido Abbey. So Vadim, when he built his Lido component, he stored this on GitHub user content, So we can pull the Abbey in. Using Ethers.js, we can create an interface to the smart contract, and we can actually create this helper method, get staked balance. So we can actually go to the Lido contract on mainnet with our sender passed in as an argument, and we can actually pull the staked ETH balance, and that's going to return that staked ETH balance and do a similar component re-rendering like in the ETH balance example. So once again, though, like I'm talking to an Ethereum contract, right? I've written this on BOS GG. I actually wrote these a few days ago, and it really didn't take that long. You basically just kind of look at a few examples, copy over a couple of pieces of code, and then I get a friendly little prompt here. Click the preview button. So I click preview, and it says balance is 0 staked ETH. So I haven't staked any ETH with this account yet, but I could. So I could run over to Vadim's component. So he made one. And his is quite comprehensive. And that's because he's actually offered the ability for you to stake ETH with the Lido component. So it's a little bit bigger, and because it also is fully styled. So there's a lot of divs. Got a little divception here, divs and divs. But basically, this component is kind of like a fully featured way to stake ETH on the Ethereum mainnet. You can go view this component on BOS GG, or you can view it on near.org. You can view it through any BOS gateway, basically. And it can also be embedded in other BOS components. So if I go back to the ETH Seoul demo, you'll see that I'm actually just referencing Vadim's component inside my component. So it's right down here at the bottom, and that's all it took to bring Vadim's Lido staking component into my BOS app. So like MJ was mentioning before, you can basically bring in NFT marketplaces into existing Web3 apps. So you can basically trade NFTs or put them up for sale on marketplaces without leaving the original dApp. So we can have basically dApps inside dApps. We can have multi-chain dApps living side by side on the same page. It's really powerful. And yeah, one thing I wanted to just show, just so everybody believes it's real. I could say I want to stake 0.1 ETH, and when I call submit, the usual stuff happens. MetaMask transaction comes up. It's all loaded there. It's ready for me to basically stake this ETH. So yeah, it's really that simple. It's pretty quick. There's lots of components out there on BOS that you can fork and stuff. And one other thing I just wanted to mention too is that what's really cool about this stuff, I'll look at Vadim's component here, is that as a developer and also as a user, you want to maybe know which interfaces you're using, and you want to make sure that there's not a malicious update to a user interface. So sometimes domains get hijacked and basically front ends get swapped out, and contract addresses where you, for example, are sending Ethereum to, they get swapped out, right? So what's really cool about BOS is because these are deployed on Near and they're cryptographically signed by the author that's deploying them, you actually know the code that you're running. So it's really great with BOS. You can version lock, and you can basically load a specific component at a specific moment in time, and you can be assured that you're basically running the right code. So just another cool feature of BOS. The last thing I will mention about the demo here, so I mentioned using another developer's component, is theming and styled components. So I do think this is really cool because I always import the same stuff into every React app, and this just helps you basically quickly theme your components and quickly style them up using familiar stuff like styled components and Sass. Obviously, it's not required to use them, but if you have another sort of way that you would like to do your styling, but it's all there. It's all just kind of part of the parcel. So I'm going to pass it back to MJ to talk about our bounty. So this is where you, the 3 developers that put up their hand, can earn money this weekend by hacking on BOS. And you can hack on any blockchain you want. We're just looking for basically components. And yeah, MJ, do you want to talk about the bounty?
Cool. Yeah, thanks, Matt. So yeah, as you've seen, it is extremely easy to prototype and build decentralized front ends using the BOS. And we are actually offering, so in addition to all the other bounties that Near is offering, so we at Proximity, we are also offering a bounty for $3,000 for whoever wants to build a decentralized front end using the BOS for the liquidity protocol on Ethereum. So if you're interested, we actually have a QR code that you can scan to go to this page where you can find more information about the criteria for the bounty. And another thing I just want to mention that if you're interested in learning more about the BOS, tomorrow morning there's actually another talk by Ilya, who is the co-founder of the Near protocol, and I'm sure he has more insights to share about the blockchain operating system. And that's it. That's all from us. Thank you.